Hello, I'm David Munro. I'm Surrey's Police and Crime Commissioner. Thank you very much indeed for watching us and our latest roadshow. And I'm going to talk for about 5 minutes or so, and then I'm going to hand over to the Chief Constable, Gavin Stevens, and lastly is going to be Runnymede's Borough Commander, Inspector Nick Pinkerton. And then the most important part of this event, which is to listen to your questions and your comments and reply as honestly and as much detail as we can. I'd like to start, however, by referring to, of course, the coronavirus pandemic, which we've all been in for a year. Hopefully it's the last lap, but we can never be too sure. And I'd like to thank from the bottom of my heart the magnificent efforts of the vast majority of Surrey residents who know the rules, have obeyed the rules, and as a result have made our county just that little bit safer. Surrey Police have been out there educating, explaining, engaging and helping people to make sure that we can be as safe as possible, because it's literally a matter of life and death. But make no mistake, for the small minority of Surrey people who don't obey the rules, Surrey Police will also be out there enforcing to the best of their ability. Now, that's me, David Munro, PCC for Surrey. My job in a sentence is to hold Surrey Police to account on behalf of you, the residents. And I can only do that if you tell me what you think. What you think has gone well, and I think a lot has gone well. What you think has not gone so well, and how you think we can improve. So this engagement event is a crucial part of that. I think we've got quite a number of notable achievements in Surrey, and I'm very proud of the force. For instance, after a decade of cuts, very painful cuts, there are more officers and staff serving Surrey's communities, and I'm sure both the Chief Constable and Inspector Pinkerton will go into more detail on that. Improved satisfaction of Surrey residents. We're not in first place. I hope that's our goal, but we are number 7 nationally, which I think is pretty good. And I'm particularly pleased that we are helping victims get over the effects, awful effects, of the crimes that they have suffered. We're here now particularly because I want to find out from you what you think the right level of police precept is for the next year going forward. But I thought you'd like to know what you said last year, that you were happy to pay a small increase in the police precept, provided you could see the results of that. So what have been the results? And the main one has been more police officers and staff have joined our ranks. They're not all there yet out in the streets in our communities. It's taken some time to recruit and train them, but they will be on schedule by March, and some are already there. And I'm particularly pleased that a lot of those are officers at real local level, neighbourhood specialist officers and rural crime officers, for instance, and there will be more to come. And equally important, I think, is that our crime solving rate is okay, but I think it could be better, and I know the force agrees with that, and a great deal amount of work and extra resources is being put in to help improve that solving rate, and that work will go on as well. And in addition to actual numbers, you can see on the slide that a lot of work has gone, a lot of resources have gone in to help increasing numbers of our community. I've talked about the coronavirus, over 30 organisations have been supported there, and so on. And just draw your attention, we've actually set up in conjunction with partners a new women's refuge, because unfortunately one of the effects of the pandemic has been people have been cooped up in their houses for too long, and that, I'm afraid, has driven a spiral of domestic abuse which has done no one any good, and we must crack down on that and protect the people, protect the survivors. So what's the deal? The government allowing us to increase the police precept by 5.5%. That's £15 a year on an average Band D property. And that's my recommendation, but I want to hear from you whether you agree with that. What are you going to get for that money? And basically, it's going to be extra police officers and staff by March 2022. You've all heard of Boris's 20,000. That's the national uplift programme, and Surrey will get its share of that, but the precept increase will allow us to put even more officers and staff, frontline staff, into our ranks, and I believe they will make a significant difference. We're running a consultation at the moment. It closes soon, and if you haven't already responded, please do so, and you'll see the details of how you can do that on our website. We're really interested in your views. Last year we got a really good response, and I'm hoping for an even better response this year, so that we know what you think and what you want out of Surrey policing. I'll now hand over to the Chief Constable, Gavin Stevens.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you to all of you for joining us online this evening. I really do appreciate you taking the time to take an interest in the policing of the county, and what a year it's been. But I strongly believe that even in these times of uncertainty, we should be planning ahead. And if you came along to one of these events in person last year, then you gave us your views loud and clear, and that was a really important part of us putting our plans together for the next 5 years. We followed on from that with a big consultation exercise for all of our officers, staff and volunteers that make up Surrey Police in the early part of last year, and we started to put together our plans for the coming years ahead. Of course, in March, the major incident was declared, and we concentrated on policing the pandemic. So it wasn't until the summer, when we had a brief respite, that we were able to dust off the work that we'd done, share that with all of the partner organisations we work with across Surrey to seek their views too, which led to us in September launching our commitments for the next 5 years. So these are a set of commitments to you in our communities, to each other in Surrey Police, and also to the future of the force. And I want to talk about these in a little bit more detail. But before I do so, I want to pay tribute, as the Commissioner has, to the enormous community effort, the effort from our officers, staff and volunteers, all of the partner organisations that we've worked with that have really helped to police the pandemic. We've done everything that's humanly possible to try and keep our community safe. Now, of course, much of the media focus on policing throughout the pandemic has been about the enforcement, the issuing of fixed penalty notices and the like. But those of us that have worked day to day in policing around the clock through the pandemic know that that's just a tiny, tiny fraction of what we've been involved with. We have a very active role in the emergency planning for the local resilience forum, where all organisations come together to respond to the major incident plans. Our police community support officers and neighbourhood teams have visited many thousands of vulnerable residents across the county. Our police cadets have delivered food parcels to the vulnerable. We've had officers come out of retirement to do difficult work on logistics and planning, on supply of personal protective equipment to over 900 different organisations across the county. And sadly, officers dedicated to managing the additional bereavement that many hundreds of families have faced across Surrey as a result of the pandemic. I pay tribute to all of that effort and say a huge thanks to you for your support. In the first wave of the lockdown, we did a survey of residents to find out how we were doing. And nearly 92% of you said that you had confidence in your local policing team and how we'd responded. And I'm really grateful for you showing that support. So moving on then to talk a little bit more about the commitments, and starting with the most important one, our set of commitments to you. If you've heard me speak before or been along to an event, then you'll know that I want Surrey Police to be a preventative organisation in outlook. And I'm pleased to say that our hard work is paying off. Surrey is currently the 6th safest county in England and Wales, and the safest county in the southeast of England. Now, that's no small achievement because we have a significant border with the capital, we have Europe's busiest motorway network, and we have proximity to 2 major international airports. So the work that the teams do to keep crime levels low, I think, is really commendable. Of course, this year is also a year where we've had to concentrate on protecting our communities from different sorts of threats too. And some of these go largely unseen. One example of that is Operation Signature, the work that we've done on romance fraud, which sadly last year affected 27 victims with total financial losses of over £280,000. So just one example of the work that we sometimes do behind the scenes to protect vulnerable in our communities. Of course, we always work hard at pursuing offenders. And just a few examples of this, Operation Centurion, which is a joint operation with the Metropolitan Police and other forces across England and Wales to tackle drug supply lines or county lines. This is where we do detailed investigative and technical work to take out the head of the supply and the supply on the streets at the same time, reducing the harm that drugs cause on the streets of Surrey. With Operation Tramline, we've worked hard to keep the roads safe for you and your loved ones. This gives us a HGV eye view of dangerous driving on the road, and over 305 offences have been dealt with as part of that operation, which gained national significance. And then more recently, Operation Rally is something that we've done with British Transport Police to target those offenders that through their theft and damage blight our beautiful county, whether that's through theft of metal from church buildings, whether it's theft of catalytic converters or dumping of materials on the road. In this operation, we stopped over 150 suspicious vehicles, dealt with 31 offences, including licensing offences and immigration offences. So just a few examples of the hard work that we do to pursue offenders. But of course, there's always more that we can do, and our focus for this year is to solve more crime. If you're a victim of crime in Surrey, your chances of having that crime solved are not high enough, and we want to do better for you on that. Turning next to the commitments that we've made to each other within the organisation, I really passionately believe that what it feels like to work for an organisation directly affects the quality of service that it gives. And we're an organisation that aspires to the highest professional standards. Sometimes that means tackling the different issues that any organisation faces. And I'm proud to say that we've been part of the Everyday Sexism project, where through a live debate and a campaign, we've tackled some of those discriminatory issues that female colleagues can face in the workplace. Through that work, our campaign, Not in My Force, sends a very strong message that this is an organisation where we won't tolerate that type of behaviour. We're also, of course, incredibly proud of some of our achievements, and we celebrated Black History Month, welcoming back Surrey's first black police officer, Dr. Victor Elisa. The seminar that Vic took part in was attended by police services from all around the country, and we were really grateful in Vic attending and proud to welcome him back. The exhibition that we put together went out into communities too, so you could engage in that as well. And of course, we want to be a truly inclusive organisation, a place that properly represents our communities and where you can see yourselves. And up to November of last year, we were proud to welcome 268 new officers into Surrey. And in October, on a single day, we swore in more officers than we'd ever done on a day before, 75 in one single day. And if that wasn't enough, we also welcomed 33 transferees into Surrey, some of whom are returning having tried policing elsewhere. 56 police community support officers, and also 301 police staff colleagues. So it's been an exceptionally busy time for our recruitment and training teams. Our focus this year will be to maintain those exceptional high standards, to make sure we've got the best standards of selection, recruitment, training and continual professional development, so that we have the skills necessary to keep you safe in your communities. Finally, I'd just like to talk about the commitments that we've made to the future of the force. So I've spoken already about being a more preventative organisation, and our central problem-solving team has oversight of over 350 live problem-solving cases. So these are cases where local officers are trying to get to the root causes of crime and disorder, to design it out at source and keep our county safe. This year is the year, of course, when we've done much more work in partnership. We cannot police this county on our own, and we are reliant all the time on the support of others. We've developed new partnerships during the pandemic that I'm determined will endure when the pandemic is over, so that in working together we can provide an even better service to you. One small example of that is just the tremendous volunteering effort. Our special constabulary alone have done 43,000 hours of voluntary service, with some colleagues coming from furloughed employment and choosing to give their time to policing. And finally, I think it's my responsibility as Chief Constable to get the full potential out of the organisation, not just, of course, from the brilliant officers, staff and volunteers that make up Surrey Police, but from our technology and information too. This year, we've introduced a new body-worn video system, a new online platform for managing digital evidence that allows you to directly upload evidence that will help us with our investigations. We've introduced a new Digital 101 system where you can contact us online 24/7, 365 days a year, and expect the same high quality service as when you contact us on the phone. And so that I don't get rusty in my skills, I completed my TASER training course so that whenever I'm out and about with the teams, I can do a very small part in helping the teams keep you safe. Of course, as ever, there's always more we can do, and the focus for this year is to really get the best out of our information and data so that we truly understand the nature of policing demand and how it's changing, to make sure that the new investment and additional officers, staff and volunteers to come into the organisation are concentrated in the right places. And on that point, I'd like to turn to a local perspective, and it's my pleasure to introduce Inspector Nick Pinkerton to give you a perspective from the area where he polices.
Thank you, Chief Constable. Hello. My name is Inspector Nick Pinkerton. I've served in Surrey Police for 22 years, and I've had the pleasure of being Borough Commander for Runnymede since 2016. Addlestone is the home of your neighbourhood policing team, who you probably see out and about in marked cars as first responders. Currently we have 5 rotas of about 15 officers each, and each rota is led by 2 sergeants. We also have a specialist neighbourhood team. This is comprised of neighbourhood specialist officers and police community support officers known as PCSOs. The team deals with chronic issues such as repeat problems in particular locations or with particular people, and we work closely with our partners such as Runnymede Borough Council, hospitals, housing associations and social services. This year we have worked more closely with our partners than ever before, and we hope that you can see this is coming through in our service to you. In terms of the policing team, we provide a 24/7 response. We've also covered areas such as protecting vulnerable people under COVID, making sure that nobody is left behind and everybody gets the services they need. We are also supported from Staines Police Station by specialists such as the Criminal Investigation Department, CID, who deal with the more extreme crimes, and also our Safeguarding Investigation Unit, who deal with a whole gamut of things such as domestic abuse, and child protection issues. We all work closely together because we all know the most important thing is to prevent crime rather than simply react to it. Our priorities, therefore, are both preventing and detecting crime and safeguarding the public. You say, well, what do officers do? Officers spend over half their time dealing with safeguarding issues, such as missing persons, mental health issues, vulnerable adults, or concerns for safety. For example, there are 127 missing person inquiries in Runnymede alone last year, and 618 vulnerable adult incidents. We've also visited hundreds of homes during the COVID pandemic to ensure that no one is forgotten and was unable to access vital services. In terms of our performance, overall crime in Runnymede is down by over 7% this year. We've done a huge amount of work in targeting residential burglary, both on a borough and divisional level. And in Chertsey, which has suffered from winter burglaries for the last 3 years, you'll have probably received a letter explaining what we're doing in detail there. You'll notice that whilst most of the figures are positive, there has been an increase in violence, and I'll address that. The rise in violence is not as many people would immediately think due to people fighting in public. In fact, the number of such occurrences is down. The increase in violence has been caused by offences which have not actually caused physical injury. This does not mean that they're necessarily minor, because the category includes causing harassment, distress, and threats to harm, including those made on social media. But overall, as you can see, we have maintained a performance which has led to a decrease in crime. Antisocial behaviour has risen by 6% in Runnymede. Why is this? Breaking this down, rowdy and ignorant behaviour accounts for 55% of all such reports in Runnymede. In terms of where it occurs, half of ASB in Runnymede occurs in 3 wards: Chertsey, Meads and St Anne's, Addleston Town and Thorpe and Hythe. We've responded to this. We've instigated 2 public space protection orders, one in central Addleston and one in Englefield Green. This means that we can exclude people who are troublemakers from an area very quickly and prevent them returning. We've put a lot of time and resources into dealing with youth issues in central Addleston. We've listened to what the public have said, and we've tried to respond not only from a policing point of view, but by involving our partner agencies. We've also this year instigated a new antisocial behaviour car, which has been staffed by members of the Safer Runnymede team, and will provide fast time reassurance and also attendance at antisocial behaviour incidents. So for the year ahead, we will continue to target criminality and antisocial behaviour along with our partners, because dealing with these issues is not simply a police matter. We work closely with environmental health. We have prosecuted fly tippers who have come to Runnymede and left waste in our beauty spots, endangering both people and animals. We've worked with environmental health to deal with noise issues in Egham. We've worked with community mental health to protect victims who have been targeted. And we worked with health and social services to make sure that all vulnerable people can feel safe and reassured in living in Runnymede. My team is enthusiastic, and I'm also pleased to say my team has grown this year. Due to the resources given to us by the extra precept, I now have twice as many neighbourhood specialist officers, and also I have a second youth engagement officer to go into the schools and speak to children and make sure that our messages are getting through clearly and specifically. This year has been very difficult, but by working with Runnymede Borough Council and other partners, we continue to provide a policing service to keep Runnymede as safe as it can be. And I thank all the support we get from the community for this. I thank you for that.
Thanks very much indeed, Nick. And now the most important part of this event is to hear what you've got to say Have you got any comments or questions? We'll do our very best to answer them.
Stevens, the Chief Constable, and Inspector Nick Pinkerton, who's the Borough Commander at Runnymede. My consultation on the police precept has now opened. I'm not going to reveal what the answers are. I don't want to lead you to do anything, but just to say more people have actually started replying than last year and the year before. So that's really good. So it's over to you. Now, we've got the questions already coming in. And the first question, and forgive me, I haven't got a record of who actually asked the questions. But the first question is, how will the new illegal encampment law impact operationally? That's part one. And how will any new officer dividend from central government be utilised? I'll take the first bit and ask the Chief Constable to do the second bit. The unauthorised encampment law, we don't know the details at the moment. All I've seen is newspaper reports of what may hit us. It's got to be published and then go through Parliament. But I think it will have a very significant effect on controlling the small minority of unauthorised encampments which cause trouble, and I know cause a lot of distress amongst the settled communities. So we will wait to see what happens, but I assure you we will take that new legislation very seriously indeed. Can I now go to the Chief Constable? The Boris is 20,000. We're getting our fair share of that. How are we going to actually employ them?
Thanks, Commissioner. Yeah, happy to answer that part of the question. There's a whole range of ways that we're using the uplift, both from the 20,000 and also precept money that was invested last year too. So I won't give the full list, but I'll certainly give a range of examples. So we have a new team of officers that are looking to reduce the most serious accidents on the roads, more investment in tackling crime in rural communities, and officers who work in our safeguarding investigation units, so those units who look at crimes targeted against the most vulnerable in our society. Of course, we've also increased the number of our officers working in neighbourhoods in Nick's team, and Nick may come on to talk about what he's seen there, so on things like youth engagement, and we're putting back some proactive capability into our divisional based teams so that we can really chase down known offenders, crime groups that are committing crime. So a whole range of ways that we're putting uplift back in there. And of course, there's also more specialist roles that we do as prevention of rape and serious sexual offending and hate crime. So all things that will help keep our communities safe.
Thank you very much, Chief Constable. And our second question is related, I think. It says, what new initiatives to reduce our 4 most reported crime are in train? And I'm going to ask the Chief Constable to answer those again.
Yeah, really this is, when I spoke on the presentation about becoming a more preventative force, this is exactly the sort of thing that we were talking about. So one of the things that our central problem solving team do is to look at the international evidence about what works on particular crime types. So our one of the top crimes that's reported to is of course domestic abuse and domestic violence. There was a project from California that was proven to reduce reoffending in domestic violence that the teams have started to implement. And I know on property crime, things like domestic burglary, again, the teams have been following evidence-based practice to reduce that. Of course, there are some crime types where we really need the support of the manufacturers and designers. So one of the common things that we've wrestled with this year, and I know Nick's teams will have been doing this, is catalytic converter theft, which is a real problem across our communities. And that's one of those crimes where we need the industry to design it out in the first place, rather like theft of car stereos and like was designed out in the 90s and 2000s. We really need to see progress on catalytic converter theft in the same way that we saw on mobile phone manufacturers, for example, being much more secure in their software and helping us reduce theft and fraud associated with mobile phones. So just a few ideas then.
Great. Thank you very much. The questions are coming in thick and fast now, so I'll take them in order. So do be patient. We will get to them all, I'm sure. And we've got two questions now on local matters, which I'll ask Inspector Pinkerton to answer. There's problems at the Ottershaw takeaway, and what is the police going to do about that? It's the Chinese takeaway. And related to that, on the Franklin's estate in Addleston, there are questions on crimes there, drug theft and other antisocial behaviour. Will there be more police presence in future? Over to Inspector Pinkerton.
Okay, thank you for the question. Regarding Ottershaw, you're talking about Brox Road. A couple of years ago, we had a big problem there, and we worked with the council on parking enforcement. We worked with the fast food outlets and also the shops, and the number of complaints in that area has gone down very considerably. You mentioned, I think, in the question about the CCTV coverage, we discovered that certain parts of the coverage was hindered by the growth of trees. So what we've talked about is having the foliage cut back. At the moment, in terms of reports of antisocial behaviour, this is not one of the main areas that is coming to our attention. However, what I will do is we'll have a look again at any reports we're getting, and the PCSOs anyway regularly go down. I'll also talk to Mr. Robbins in Runnymede Parking Enforcement and see if there's a problem that's coming to light there. As regards Franklin's, yes, there has been antisocial behaviour and there have been more police patrols there. One of the things that we have been hitting hard is crimes committed by youths on mopeds, and there have been a number of arrests and a number of mopeds seized. Where mopeds have been used antisocially, we've also seized them under Section 59 powers, which means that people who use antisocial behaviour with vehicles will have their vehicles seized. This is an example of the fact that we closely monitor all complaints that come in locally, and we dynamically change what we do. At the moment, the biggest problem we have with antisocial behaviour in terms of reports is not either in Franklin's or in Ottershaw. But with the change of circumstances, we will respond quickly.
Thank you very much indeed for that, Inspector Pinkerton. I hope that answers the questions. And I should say, if you think we've missed out any answers, do get in touch with us outside this meeting, and we will actually get to the bottom of your questions. Okay, so question number 5 then, and probably one for the Chief. If antisocial behaviour is seen on CCTV, are police automatically dispatched to the problem? Well, I can give the glib answer, which is no, it's not completely automatic, although we take it very seriously. But the Chief will give a much better answer than that.
The answer to that depends on which CCTV system we're talking about. So, of course, some do have monitoring, others don't. So maybe Nick will be able to give a local perspective for the schemes in the area.
Okay, we're very lucky in Runnymede to have Safer Runnymede, which is run by Runnymede Borough Council and covers Runnymede and also Spelthorne. Their staff have all been vetted, which means that they have access to our airwave system and they can report things immediately to us. Obviously, the response depends on the level of seriousness of the antisocial behaviour, and everything that comes in is judged on threat, risk and harm. But I can tell you that thanks to working closely with Safer Runnymede, we've made arrests on as many crimes as, for instance, we've had a serious sexual assault. We had a very quick arrest. We've stopped vehicles. We've intercepted people with drugs in their vehicles. We've arrested people in Station Road in Addleston for antisocial behaviour because we work very closely with them, and we have a good partnership. They understand how we work, and we understand how they work. And also, I have to say, the quality of the pictures are very good. When I first started in policing, CCTV was grainy. The definition was poor. This has now been addressed. And also, we have the situation in Runnymede where they have portable cameras which work over the mobile phone network. So where we have a hot spot of antisocial behaviour crime, we can install a camera very quickly and power it off the lamp standard. All of these are things that we've progressed with Runnymede Borough Council, and gives, I think, a good level of service to Runnymede, and I think one which I feel proud of.
Thank you very much indeed, again, on that. Question 6 is an interesting one. It's been reported that data was accidentally deleted from national databases linked to the Police National Computer and the Police National Database. What's the impact likely to be on pending cases in Surrey? That's very interesting. I haven't seen an official assessment of what the problem is. I'm not sure one has been made, although of course they are looking into that urgently. Chief, have you got any more up-to-date information than myself?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. I can give a brief update. The first reassurance I'd like to give is to say that the problem that occurred has been stopped. So it's
good point.
An error in the code that was used for the maintenance of the national computer, and that's been stopped from now on. So there won't be any more records lost. In terms of implications for Surrey, I'm not aware of any specific cases as yet. The data that's gone is on the Police National Computer, on the National DNA Database, and on the fingerprint database that is used as well. At a national level, teams have been meeting twice a day, every day, since this came to notice, to assess the implications of it and communicate with forces that might be affected on specific cases. We've been given some guidance about how to do workarounds and double check on issues. And of course, the other thing that the teams are doing at a national level is to investigate ways to try and recover the lost data. So, like you, I have plenty of questions that I'd like answers to over the coming days, and other teams are working hard on that. The other thing that I would point out is that, as well as access to the national systems that officers use as part of their checks, we also do hold extensive local intelligence. All forces do that, and we can communicate with each other to check out that local intelligence, and all of that information remains available to us. So we do have some safeguards that we can use to check on people when we need to.
Good, thank you. That's very topical. And now, a couple of local questions coming up now. Someone who lives in the Addleston-Ottershaw border asking, where is my nearest police station now, please? Well, Nick, you actually are there, so tell us where you operate from.
Okay. Policing in Runnymede operates out of Addleston Civic Centre. If, however, you want to go to a police front counter to report things directly, your nearest front counter will be in Staines, Kingston Road in Staines. Alternatively, if you're in Ottershaw, you can pop across to Woking. I would suggest, though, of the two, probably Staines is preferable because that is on what's called the Northern Division, the division that's made up of Runnymede, Spelthorne and Elmbridge.
Okay, and of course, there's all sorts of other ways to contact the police. Of course, 999 if you feel threatened, 101 either online or by the telephone. You're just a telephone call away from help. Now, the next one from the Addleston Community Centre saying you're anxious to support our efforts and how can we involve you? Thank you very much, first of all, for that offer. I don't think personally I've been to see you at the community centre, and I would like to, so I'll ask my office to arrange that, if I may. But the immediate answer, Nick, I'm sure you know the community centre well, and how can we get even closer to them?
The problems we've had working in community centres at the moment is COVID. COVID stopped, for instance, the Meet the Beat. It also stopped, for instance, our work with older people when we were talking about fraud. As soon as the COVID regulations are able to be relaxed, we will be back into the community centres talking to community groups. That is the core of local policing. We want to work with our community groups and we want to reach out to people, and we're very happy to do so. I'm just sorry at the moment that we're not able to do that because of the COVID regulations and keeping everybody safe and keeping everybody well. But believe me, as soon as you get the opportunity, we're rearing to go.
Yes, I'm afraid COVID has hit the police force, just like everybody else, quite hard. We're not able to do the things, especially face-to-face contact, that we would dearly like to do. Hopefully, we can see light at the end of that tunnel. We certainly want to. Now, question 9 then. It's all about the Frank Muir Memorial Field in Thorpe, and it's suffering from drug issues, the caller says. So how can they get more police presence and intervention? And that's another local one.
Okay, with the Frank Muir Memorial Field, that is not the area we're getting most reports in regarding this issue in Thorpe. As you can see from our Runnymede beat, and I urge you to have a look at Runnymede beat on either Twitter or Facebook, we've done a lot of patrols in Hythe Park. The way you can get more police presence is to report more. And please don't just limit that to reporting it on local chat groups, because we can't monitor all the local chat groups. If you see something which you feel deeply uncomfortable with, you feel should be reported to police, then talk to us. And not only will you get a police response, but we'll also talk to Runnymede Borough Council, Green Spaces and any other relevant partner agency to deal with it. And again, we'll talk to CCTV to see what coverage there is. And is there a possibility of getting extra coverage? It's information from you, the public, that helps determine what we, the police, do. And we are very keen on damping down an antisocial behaviour. So that's the situation regarding Frank Muir Park.
Thank you very much indeed. And the next question, no, we're still local, but we've got questions after that which are more general. So somebody asks, our estate in Virginia Water wants to enhance its security system to help in burglaries. Any thoughts on that? How can they set about that?
Well, we already work in Virginia Water with the Wentworth estate, which has got its own ANPR system. If you want to talk about enhancing your security system, the first person to talk to is our Designing Out crime officer, Vic Smith, who works with me at Addlestone Police Station. To just send us an email with the details, and we'll talk straight to you. We do this with other communities, and I think that we can give you a lot of very good advice. It won't cost you anything, and we're not bound to any particular providers, so our advice is completely impartial and professional.
Thank you very much, Nick. Now, two questions for the Chief Constable, I think. The first one is, are there any plans to increase police presence in our rural villages? Well, the answer I can say again is yes, there are, but the Chief Constable's the person to answer in much more detail.
Yeah, so this year we've invested in our rural crime work across the county with training up police community support officers with additional skills to be able to give attention to rural crimes. But we'd also like to do more, and that's one of the operational bids that we've made to the Police and Crime Commissioner to say that we would like to do this, given sufficient investment, then that's something that we would definitely like to do more of. And of course, as the Commissioner described at the beginning of this session, is currently out to consultation on those proposals. So we've done a bit more this year. We would like to do some more, and that's part of one of the bids that we put forward.
Absolutely, and there are specific plans to do that. But if you live in a suburb, live in a town, don't worry, you won't be left out either. We have plans for increased presence in every square metre of our county and of Runnymede borough, and that's what the consultation is all about. Now, the first COVID question we've got, and it comes from someone in the Ash Vale area, which is not in Runnymede, but it's a very important question. Too many local food shops in the Ash Vale area are not enforcing the compulsory wearing of masks. What can be done to force this use of masks? What are Surrey Police doing?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that. Nick might give a perspective for local outlets in his area too. So the first thing I'd say is don't hesitate to report your concerns. We've had many thousands of reports relating to COVID breaches, which means that we can pass on any patterns to local authorities, environmental health and licensing and so on, where we see them, and also ask the local teams to pay attention to any particular hotspots, so we can encourage compliance, which is always what we try to do first, whether that's through the shop owner or the management, and of course, if necessary, enforce where there's sort of blatant disregard for the regulations. In another area of the county, I was involved in exactly that just last week, where we had some good community intelligence in. I was able to quickly pass that on to the chief executive of the local area for their teams to do follow-up action, and actually that was done jointly with the local policing team and resulted in that problem being solved. But I'll pass to Nick just in case you've got sort of local examples and response from the team on that sort of issue.
Certainly. We have to say with Ash, though, the last time I was in Ash, I was in Foot Patrol in 1996, so I'm slightly out of date there. But if you have a situation where you believe that companies are not complying, what we do is we're working with both trading standards and environmental health. And in Runnymede, particularly with the Runnymede's environmental health, which is very proactive, we will go there and we will see if they are breaking regulations. And if it's a mistake, then we'll give them words of advice. If, however, we believe that they're not making any effort at all, they will be liable to fix penalties. Because the situation is, we will attempt to educate before we attempt to enforce. But if people just don't care and just won't, we will enforce, because they have been warned. And in the end, we have to take the safety of the whole community as paramount.
Absolutely, and I can say throughout the county, this is Surrey Police. I know the force take it very seriously. Extra resources are out there as we speak in helping with the 4Es and enforcing if necessary. I do think that the vast majority of Surrey residents, and I'm not saying this lightly, but the vast majority are taking this pandemic really seriously. And we need to thank each other for doing that, because if they don't, then where do we go? There are a small minority, but it is a small minority who still don't seem to get it. And fixed penalty notices have been issued. Certainly a £10,000 fine was handed out recently, and a very serious summons has also been done. So, but we do rely on residents, of course, I think everybody knows now what the rules are, and we all need to obey them. Now, a speeding question next, and excessive speeding seems to be commonplace on Runnymede's roads. What's been done actively to reduce that and prosecute speeding motorists, make our roads safer? And there's particularly the next question, particularly for Stroud Residents Association in that area. How can is there a named officer that they can contact in Stroud Residents Association to help us contact that locally. So, Chief, on speeding in generally, and then to Inspector Pinkerton, or play it as you wish.
Yep, I'd say a brief word on speed enforcement in general. We know it's one of the fatal five. Our roads policing teams across the county and our casualty reduction teams are very focused on that. Of course, we want to work with community speed watchers where we can as well. We want to keep the roads as safe as we possibly can for you. And I'll ask Nick to pick up the local area here in relation to the Residents Association.
I would suggest that you contact PC Paul Langtree, and if you look on our Facebook page, you can see him doing some enforcement recently in the Virginia water area. So PC Paul Langtree is the person to talk to, and again, he can also facilitate if you're interested, and you have the numbers. We can create a community speed watch in the area. Just to say that we share data with Surrey County Council, and we are constantly reviewing where the danger areas are in roads in terms of accidents, and we will that's how we determine where we're going to do this, where we're going to do our speed enforcement. It's based on data.
Thank you very much indeed. Speeding is a perennial problem. A statistic I like to quote is that on average there are twice the number of deaths on our roads than there are murders in Surrey. Surrey is a safe county, so there's not many murders, thank goodness, but there's more deaths on the roads. And that, to me, that brings home the real need to crack down on our unsafe driving in particular. And again, if we're wanting to do specific things, if we can increase the precept to put more resources into that area, because it's badly needed. Now, question 15 says, not so much a question, but thanks. Police Community Support Officer Redwood, PCSO Redwood, has done great work in Strawberry Fields, the questioner says, and the questioner wants to thank him, but not quite sure how. Don't worry, we will get in contact with PCSO Redwood. We'll do some background digging as well and make quite sure the two of you get into contact. It's not, of course, just PCSO Redwood, but all our other officers. Day by day, they serve their community and do acts of kindness. But thanks very much indeed for that. Now, let me go to the next one. And question 16. Yes, now this is a perennial one. Do you ever arrest anyone for using, let me get this right, nitric oxide, something beginning with X? They're called NOS. They're those little canisters about that high, silver, and I'm afraid they do tend to litter some of our public parks and areas. What are we doing about NOS? Chief, then, Nick, I know you're onto that.
I'll let Nick come in first with the local perspective, and then I'll say something about what I think needs to happen nationally.
Okay. Nitrous oxide capsules originally designed for culinary purposes such as whipped cream, etc. It's not illegal to use NOS canisters, although it will damage your health. It's not a good idea to use them. It is illegal to sell them for purposes such as taking them as a drug. We have arrested recently in Addleston a gentleman who was selling NOS canisters to children. NOS canisters can cause damage to people's respiratory systems. It can cause shock. It can damage their spinal cord. It can cause all kinds of Parkinson-like tremors for a long period. And one woman in Bristol who used it excessively ended up losing all sensation and feeling to her lower limbs and couldn't stand up. NOS is not a drug without consequence. It is a drug. it's dangerous if used for not the purpose it was created for. As for NOS, we've had problems in local parks with NOS. Hyde Park, there was NOS canisters. Our PCSOs do patrols there. We will not tolerate people selling NOS to children, because the majority of users are children. And any information from the public about people who are selling NOS canisters improperly, we're very keen to hear about, and we will act upon it immediately.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. And just to say that we're currently conducting research about this problem and the antisocial behaviour that's associated with it. We're looking to work in particular with local groups and children and young people as to how we can get the message across. So if any of you got any ideas on that, then feel free, please, to contact us after this session. You can contact my office or Nick's office, or come into us on any of our social media feeds, which are now monitored 24/7. So if you want to help out on getting ahead of that problem, then we'd really like to hear from you. And my personal view is I think tighter regulation on it is needed to help us solve the problem.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. In fact, I wrote last year to, I think it was a policing minister, to make that exact point. We think that the rules, for all the reasons that have been outlined, are too lax and they needed tightening up. What sort of reply did I get? Non-committal. I think he didn't say no. He didn't say no, but he didn't say yes either. So that's still up in the air to a certain extent, but we appreciate the problem. Now, we are reaching the end now, so we've just got one more question, but that's a very important one. If you want to engage with the public, why can it take over 10 minutes to answer the police 101 number? What are we doing? That's a subject particularly close to my heart. Frankly, when I came into office 4 years ago, the 101 system wasn't working for a variety of reasons. No fault of the actual operator, but the force have done an enormous amount to improve the 101 system under quite severe strains, especially recently. But Chief, I know you're very concerned with that as well.
Yep. Well, firstly, let me say, if you've had an experience of waiting over 10 minutes, then a personal apology from me on that, because 10 minutes to wait on our 101 number is not acceptable. We have had times when the average wait time has gone above 3 minutes. So in the summer of last year, when it was particularly busy for us, and we were also introducing some new digital services, we did go over 3 minutes for an average wait time. In November, I can say that was back down to about 1.5 minutes. So 1 minute 31 seconds was the average wait time in November, and we're maintaining that sort of level at the moment. If you do have a long wait, please do remember you can go online for any of our services. All of the social media channels are monitored 24/7. You can go to the Surrey Police website at surrey.police.uk and get access to lots of services for reporting there too. So please do feel free to use those services if you do find a long wait time.
And of course, a recent innovation is that we monitor our police official Twitter and Facebook, and I think Instagram feed. So if you tweet or use Facebook, it will be picked up by a trained operator and responded to. And I think we're the second force in the country to do that. Don't waste our time. Don't tell us what a great film you saw the previous night. But if you've got a policing matter, get onto our tweets, Twitter, Facebook, and so on, and we will respond. So we've come to the end of a very, very interesting series of questions. I'd like to thank everybody for contributing. It's not over yet. If you've got any more questions, do get in touch with us. We'll do our level best to respond. And a reminder, our consultation is still open, and we really look forward to all your questions, comments, and opinions. So I think we'll just say cheerio. Goodbye. Good night.
John.
Good night.